What's up? Welcome back to the Behind the Elite. This is Mike Dragovich, one of the co-founders of Pure Elite Fitness. I'm here today with a very special friend and guest, Sam Cardenas. Sammy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. My name's Sammy. I'm actually born and raised on the south side of Chicago, small neighborhood of Gage Park. Um, Went to school for architecture and construction management. Um, Kind of branched out. Always had a thing for architecture. So right now, I mean, the pay's okay, but I know it wasn't enough to give me the lifestyle that I wanted. So I was thinking of other ways that I can fulfill that. So which is why how I started diving into real estate, because it was I think the closest thing to architecture that can fulfill that. Um, so that's kind of how I started my background with architecture and a bit of.
Okay. So tell me a little bit. So it's interesting how you think that, okay, you decided to step up, push yourself outside your box. I have to add instead of subtract. So what made you step up? Was like an internal voice with yourself that like, hey, I have to do better, I have to do more, or was it more like, okay, pressure from outside?
Well, it was just. I mean, I grew up in a pretty like with humble beginnings. So I knew that we like the lifestyle that we were living probably wouldn't able to take us any like much further. So I knew that I had to apply a little pressure, just seeing like my father work his ass off and kind of just push his limits. I knew that the pressure was on early on, so I knew that I had to branch out and just find something that I thought I enjoyed, and then just try and be the best that I can at it.
Okay.
And I think that's what kind of started bringing, like, uh, I gotta figure it out. You know, like I gotta be better. I gotta develop. I just gotta.
I got you.
Mhm.
So did you come like with your family? Like, do you come from like means of wealth? Do you come from like a group of just hard workers, blue collar, or is it just something that like like you had to struggle in order to succeed what you needed to do?
Yeah, man. No, it was definitely a struggle. I remember like a perfect example. It was a summer hot day. We didn't have any like AC,
Mm-hmm.
and my father was a carpenter, and so they basically the house he was repairing or painting. They gave him like a hand me down like those window AC units,
Yeah.
and so it was literally five of us sleeping in that my parents' bedroom, and just this AC on, and we didn't even have doors.
Yeah.
So my mom had to put like a towel or something
Curtain up.
just to try and
Yeah.
keep the cold inside as much as it can. It barely worked.
Yeah.
The thing didn't really work. But I could hear like my mom crying, and I could hear like my dad trying to calm her, and it's stuff that like that's kind of like that's what feeds
Yeah. It's
my inner
embedded
peace.
in
You
you.
know, like that's the like man, I can't keep living like this. And then all through college, like I never like all like growing up, it was all hand me down clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really get like my first pair of clothes until like I got to high school, and that
Yeah.
was really because we had to wear uniform for high school,
Mm.
so we needed to buy like dress pants and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, that's basically how like it was the struggle. You know, it was real, man. So I think that's what kind of fed a lot of.
So I've only known you for like what now, 2, 3 years?
Yeah.
About 3 years now. Well, like we come from the same beginnings. Like I was born in Rogers Park. We had to go through the same thing. Like humble
Oh,
beginnings.
Rushmore.
I mean, we had to all stay in the one room. We put the sheets up around the edges to
So
stay
you know.
warm.
So you know.
Yeah, plastic over the windows, stuff like that. But like, see, I feel like if we didn't go through that, we wouldn't be who we are now.
100%.
Because
100%.
a lot of that, a lot of those things they're almost born and bred into us at that point.
Yeah.
Like you have to see how bad it can get in order to see like that you want better.
Yeah.
Even then, like I think you would agree that like a lot of people go through that and they don't even want better.
You know, I think that's where people fall into. Do you become a victim of your situation, or you
Mm-hmm.
kind of own your shit and be like, you know what, like I know like there's more than just this,
Yep.
you know, and like you gotta want better. Like one thing is to, because I could have easily sat like I grew up with like a lot of friends who are either dead or in jail right now,
Yep.
right? and we had the same story coming up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could have easily just said like, well, I want to be with that crowd, or I could have like also just, you know, I know there's more than this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot has to do with knowing yourself and like the self-development, which is why I fell in love with self-development.
That's how we met.
Yeah,
Through art.
right, exactly. And I think that's the difference, because like my parents never really, like my father never went to high school. He just graduated like 8th grade.
Yeah.
My mother barely finished high school, and then that was the end. So they were never able to educate us,
Yeah.
but they were give us the life lessons. And I think that is, believe it or not, what brought me to who I am, because they taught me like, work your ass off.
Yeah.
Right? Like just work your ass off. But once you tie educating and tie like all together, you better than the person who's just book smart, right? Because we
100%.
have that leverage of
Harder and smarter.
Exactly. We know how to go harder. We know how to take pressure a little more, which makes us
100%.
resilient. You know?
I definitely agree with that, because, like, I mean, you probably agree with this. You learned a lot of lessons probably through your parents, through what, like, they weren't able to or what they struggled through. You know? Like,
Yeah.
Seeing what they had to go through. But it's interesting that you brought up the self-development thing and how you, like, I mean, I consider you already know, I consider you like family.
Of course.
We've only known each other for like 3 years, but, like, we're very like-minded.
Yeah.
Freakishly like-minded.
Yeah, I know.
But it's like a matter, like, so when do you think it became a point where all right, I'm sure you told yourself when you were young, it was like, man, I just need opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Opportunity. Everyone hears that. Like, when is my opportunity? Am I going to take a hold of it? Well, now I know your mindset's very different. When did you finally tell yourself you have to create your own opportunities?
So, I think that was, my father always told me, like, no one's ever going to do anything for you. Like, because where I'm from, like, you have to put up a different front, right? So you can't truly be yourself just because, I mean, you always have to have, like, a mean mug phase. Because if someone sees weakness in you, they're going to take advantage of that, right?
Yep.
So I felt like I was never able to be myself. And it wasn't until I met my very first mentor. And he actually, I took his class. I met him in college.
Okay.
And it was one of the harder classes. And everybody knew that. Like, it was one of the harder classes. And I bullshitted it, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like a point or two off from a passing grade.
Yeah.
So I went to talk to him, and I was like, hey, man, you know, can I do any extra work? You know, it's just 2 points, like, to pass this class. And he's like, you know, I noticed that you bullshitted my class.
Yeah.
And you almost passed when there's people who actually tried and failed it. So I can't give you that opportunity. So I basically retook his course over the summer, and I was mad. I was like, all my summer, I was supposed to go, like, to soccer camp.
Mm-hmm.
It ruined my whole summer. Like, I had to stay behind now and focus on class. Well, I passed the class with A. Mm-hmm. But my mindset was, I'm going to, like, prove this guy wrong. Yeah. Right? But this whole time, he was like, honestly, it was just a test. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that goes to show that if you really want something, you'll figure it out and do it.
Exactly. Who do you think you were really mad at?
Myself.
100%.
You know, that's what it really was. Yeah. And that actually, like, that conversation was like, so what's after college for you? And that's how that conversation started. He gave me a book of real estate, a book of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then he's like, read this. If this is something you're really into, contact me over the summer, and then we'll take it from there. And I wasn't even going to do it because I was still, like, pretty upset that he really ruined my summer. Yeah. But something, like, I read the first 2 pages of the Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I got hooked. Yeah. And I was like, look, man, I already read it. What do I have to lose at this point? So I reached out to him. You know, he had offered that opportunity to 5 other students, and I was the first one who actually got back to him. Wow. And that's when he's like, that's how I know you want it. Yeah. Right? So that's when he introduced me to the whole world of, like, self-development and, like, this whole nother part of life that, like, reaching your fullest potential. And he actually introduced me to Andy Frisella's podcast. Okay. And that's how that led to
MFCEO?
Yeah.
I gotcha. So then after that, I'm assuming you joined Arte.
The second year.
The second
The
year.
first year, I was still hesitant, man. I honestly didn't believe in myself. I was still like I can see it, and I always like felt like I belong, but at the same time, I wasn't sure 100% of myself.
So I could say it. So I'll say this: when we first met I think it was a group call.
Mm-hmm.
Where you are now versus where you were then, 110% different.
I appreciate
like in
that.
a very positive way.
I appreciate that.
Because you and I were probably the more quiet ones.
Yes. Yes.
But like the thing is, everyone thought we were quiet just to be quiet, but like we were just listening.
Yeah.
I was the same way, man. I was very skeptical. Like I've known Andy for a long time, but like it's a matter of like this is another like hype up group, but they're just gonna like hoorah me, and then like after the first live is when I was like fully bought in.
Yeah. Like it took me to the second year, man, that they opened to apply, and I was like, you know what, man, I had nothing to lose because I had just launched off of Tribe Investors.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's sink or swim, you know. And if at least if I know that I don't do it, at least I know like I did it with with the leverage of having the mentorship program, and I know like I was learning and developing as I go. So I just took the opportunity. I got in, and then the rest is where we're at now. Like it was like probably the best decision I've ever made in my life.
I would 110% agree with that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Alpha Tribe.
Yeah, so Alpha Tribe is we're a buy and hold real estate investing company. So we basically we purchase properties and we fix them up. We like to add like an architectural taste, just to that's kind of what we stand for. Because that's my bread and butter personally. Yep. So we kind of like to add that, and then just provide the best customer service that we can. We try and reach our our tenants, any issues they have within 24 hours, and we like to over deliver. So I think that's what we have not had any throughout this whole pandemic. Anybody not pay rent. We make sure that they had food, water, they were well taken care of and stuff, because a lot of them were working from home and stuff.
Yeah.
So we try and just provide the best value that we can to them and stuff.
Love it. I mean, you do that even as like an architect. So a lot of these guys, you'll find Pure Elite couldn't become Pure Elite without this guy. So
appreciate that, man. Sammy
is the one that drew out and helped our vision come to reality because of his architectural skills. If anyone needs that, definitely reach out to this guy. Because I mean, you were on it right out the bat. You took it under your wing, and I could tell that you put your spin on it and really tried creating what we wanted to reality.
Of course. I think why I really fell in love with architecture to begin with was that you get to create space where people cry, people laugh, people live in these spaces. And but for me, I think it's so valuable because, man, I grew up in a pretty crappy house.
You could say shitty.
A very shitty, it wasn't the best. But, at the end of the day, it wasn't really the walls that were there. It was what that meant.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, my family was there, and that's all that mattered for me, right? So I've never knew what it felt like to live in a space where, whoa, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? But the fact that I can provide that value to other people, it's man, this is everything. 100%. That's amazing. So right now, I think that's why it starts to tie up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
100%.
So that's where I'm at right now, where it's in the journey of finding myself, but I also start to see what that does for my brand, because it's literally 100% with pure intention.
You are your brand. And what you put into it and what you invest into it and how you feel about it, others will feel about it too.
Yeah.
So if you're wholeheartedly into it, so tell us a little bit about that. What are you doing for yourself that you feel is separating Alpha Tribe?
So I personally, there was the very first quote that I read was, only those willing to go far will ever know how far one can go, right? And that stuck to me because what are limits? What if, I'm just very curious as to what happens if I don't give up? You know what I mean? What if you literally every day you wake up with the intentions of going balls to the wall, just as hard as you can go, and how that can affect just everything in your life, not just your health. Like even if you like become like at the gym, right? Because that fine tunes yourself, and then you also helps you build like just mental strength, right? And then the 75 hard is a whole nother thing that I know that like that is like iron sharpening iron, like that's so, it's just like the best mental strength that you could probably.
I think it goes into exactly what you're talking about, like limitations.
Mm-hmm.
What if there aren't any? And the only thing that limits you is you.
Exactly. And a lot of people like, and I think that's one thing that 75 hard taught me was how to read through a lot of my bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I would tell myself a lot of stuff where like, oh, it's fine, just go tomorrow. Right? But those small little losses can eventually add up the same way the wins add up.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, are you able to sleep knowing that you bullshitted this or this task or that? Right? Because at the end of the day, like, nobody sees what you do behind closed doors.
No one's gonna know.
But you have to live with that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's, I think, a very, very, very powerful, because when you know that you're going 110% every day, there's nothing that can stop you besides you.
Exactly.
Like, you know what you bring to that table, and you're so, like, positive that what are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm. I think that, so we've talked about this a little bit before. I think the difference between someone that makes the excuse of like, oh, I'm brand new to something, or I've never been there, I've never felt it, is their way of showing that, like, hey, man, I haven't put in the work. I don't believe in myself just yet. So tell us a little bit about, a lot of people are probably wondering, okay, you brought an architect and a real estate agent and Alpha Tribe into a fitness and health podcast and into a gym. What does fitness and health mean to you?
Ooh, well, it's okay. So I read a book, and I don't remember the name of it. It was actually a podcast, sorry. And they said that your physical physique is a mirror representation of your what is that word? Your discipline, right? And at that point, I was weighing at like 238, and I was like, shit, like that's crazy. And I remember I was at the gym in the sauna, but I knew I was literally bullshitting my workouts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once I heard that, it was like almost like a wow, like that's crazy. Because I got out of the shower, they had the mirror right there, and I was like, man, like I have zero type of discipline.
Yeah.
You know, and then like I said, like behind closed doors, you know what you do. Like, you know, if you eat wrong, you eat wrong. You know, like that's all on you.
Yeah.
So I think once you start tying that and life, it's a whole because fitness is like you get what you give.
Yes. There's
right?
black and white.
And life works the exact same way if you really think about it.
100%.
Because if you half-ass life, guess what? You're going to get half-ass results. The same way with fitness.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You could work out all day, but if you eat like shit, guess what? You're not going to see the results you want.
Exactly.
No matter how hard you go in that gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's a discipline. And I think that life works the same exact way, which is why I fell in love with fitness.
Yeah.
Because it brings a certain like confidence in you, and just when you tackle that task that you have in front of you, like for me it was like fitness, you come out and like just that feeling of let's kill the day.
Yeah.
You know, like that power momentum
100%.
was just so powerful that when you start out with fitness, or you look better, you feel better, man. Yeah. And I know a lot of people say that, but when you're actually in your journey and you're actually seeing results, man, you understand exactly what I mean.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
So I think that's why I tie in, like I fell in love with fitness. It's really like I love to start my day with fitness, and I like to end it just doing some cardio, just fine-tuning myself. And I like to just think of my day and how to like tackle the next day with my cardio. That's kind of how I like to break down my cardio. Mm-hmm.
That's great because, right, you're adding more value into something that's already valuable.
Yeah.
But however, you have to spin it in your head in order for you to, like, no decisions. You can't back down, right? It has to be done.
Exactly.
Especially if you're chasing for the best version of yourself.
Exactly. It's one of those, like, where discipline comes in, right? It's one of those, like, I don't want to work out today, so I'm not really feeling it, so I'm not going to go. Yeah. Imagine if we do that in life. Like, I'm not going to make that call, or I'm not going to, like, I already have 2 clients, you know? Yep. How are you going to be the best?
Can't.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't, and like, those small things that, believe it or not, that
Separate.
Exactly. That's what separates the average person versus that person who's chasing greatness.
Like, just like you were saying, like how many people that were landlords during this time, during the pandemic, actually tried helping their tenants instead of like charging them.
And I've heard stories. I've heard stories of people who are actually like leaving because their tenant did nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing for them, and they had like issues in their property, and like even they didn't fix anything even throughout the pandemic. And these people are, you gotta understand, like they're working.
Yes.
At home. Yeah. You know, a lot of like right now they have like there's the highest rate of people that are living at home, like literally at home.
Yeah.
You know? So imagine people are like wake up, start their day, work, clock out, and then the rest of the day, like they're home all day.
Well, I can only imagine then at that point, like you said, like during this pandemic, now everything, the little things that you decided not to do because you just half-assed it or whatever you did, now everything you haven't done is put under a magnifying glass because they're there 24/7, 365 now.
And it's a word of mouth.
100%.
Right? Because now it's like, oh, how's your experience with this? And well, he didn't do that.
Yep.
And it's, believe it or not, that spreads. Word of mouth, like that's actually the best way to gain clients, but it's also the easiest way to lose them.
Yep. I think you and I both really hit the ground running with both our businesses because of that.
Yeah. 100%.
100%. And because we're willing to do the little things that will go above and beyond and think is ridiculous.
And I think it's one of those things where Arte taught us of leading by example.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
It separated us.
Exactly. It's one of those, like, you have to lead, like, everyone's, like, you. Right now, there's a little more pressure because there's people that are now the eyes are on, you know? And at first I was a little hesitant, but it's like, it's a make or break you. And I strive off of that shit. Like, I love pressure. And believe it, like, I used to be so scared of it. Like, I would look away from it. But now it's one of those things where, like, you know what you bring to the table.
Did you do your homework?
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, I won't lose.
Goes back into your story.
Exactly.
Like, are you willing to put in 100%? Because you know you can get by with 50, but are you willing to put in 100 so you get your A?
And I was just exactly. And I'm reading the book David Goggins right now.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he literally just said, you know, the average person only reaches 40% of their potential. Imagine if, like, half the world did, like, 70% of their potential.
This pandemic wouldn't be as bad as it is right now.
Exactly. We would be way ahead in anything. Technology, just the way of life, the way of living, just a whole new wave. You know?
We would be on another level as, like, a society, a culture, as a nation.
Yeah. Leaders,
right?
Leadership.
Right. Separating yourself, but as I'm sure you know, like, all we can do is lead by example, do what we can, and then hopefully, like, you know, that instills something else into someone else around us.
100%. And it's one of those things where, like, people ask, like, advice and stuff, and
senior social,
you know,
you get lit up with those.
Yeah, and I like, it's such a grateful, like, feeling that you're able to just help change people's, like, perspective on life. You know, because I never had someone that would do that.
Did you ever think you would be?
No. But I would think about it, but I would never believe, like, there is no way in hell I can do that.
It's still interesting to have people coming to you for advice, and all you think, I'm guessing, because this is what goes through my head when I get approached. Like, man, it's so simple. All you have to do is the work.
Yeah, and believe it, exactly. Yeah, it's basically like, dude, just show up. You know, it's one of those things where, like, it's such a humbling feeling, but it's also, like, I think it makes everything that you're doing that much more worth it.
Yes.
You know, because now you know that you're not doing it just for you, but there's other people that are, like, striving off of that, and they're, like, eating off that momentum, which is good. Because the more leaders, the better that we need. It's what we need right now,
100%.
Especially right now with this whole pandemic that's happening.
I agree with that. So, let me ask you this. So, now that you're, like, going down that path, and you've been going down it for a little while now, and you're really getting to the point where, like, you're going to see your best version of yourself sooner or later, especially with all the work that you're putting in day out. with yourself and your business.
Appreciate it.
What are you doing now that you? Okay, so we talked about magnifying glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's gonna start seeing everyone else under a magnifying glass, right? They're home. Your social media is probably getting put under magnifying glass. Who you are, what you're doing, especially because they're bored with their own lives, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna start looking towards others. What are you doing? What does that mean to you? Do you feel certain pressure about it? What is it like? Does it drive you, push you? What are you doing to get better? Like, stuff like that.
It definitely drives me, man. It's one of those, like same way we get, like, those good comments, we also get those bad comments.
100%.
But like Andy said, if you don't have those bad comments, you ain't going hard enough.
You're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right. You need that. So it's one of those things where like it'll like you gotta feed off that, because now like these people, like a lot of people start grasping from you. So you as a leader, like people are seeing you're reading more. You're in self-development, and now they start asking questions like, "What books do you recommend?" Mm-hmm. And now they read those books you recommended over, and now they're talking to their buddies about, "Dude, you got to read this book."
Yep.
Right. So that little circle, you just by giving them the like that's, I feel like that all is it's good. Exactly. This whole pandemic, I actually lost my father through the pandemic. I hit my lowest low, if I can be honest.
I was messaging you almost every day.
Yeah, and I will forever appreciate you for that, man. Believe it or not, that actually helped a lot, because it's one of those, like, you don't really know what it feels like to hit the bottom. Like, I never felt like, I thought I hit the bottom growing up just because of like where we were. But once you lose someone you truly love and you looked up to, it's a whole different level of like hurt. Yeah. And that stings, and it took a while to like get out of that, but it's one of those where like you can't go any lower than the bottom, right? You could only just build from 100%. Here up.
I remember messaging him like things happen for a reason, and what you do and how hard you get hit and how you react to that is completely up to you. Yeah. And like, I knew you and I have been following each other's journey. I definitely feel like we push each other.
Oh, 100%.
For sure.
100%.
Like, I see what you're doing. Like, all right, I got to push myself.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta get going.
Like, oh, he's doing this? All right.
And then, like, I remember when that happened and we talked for a little bit, and I was like, all right, no, like, I can't let you decide to let yourself, like, if I can do anything to help that, I'm not going to let you just waste your potential.
And I appreciate that, man, because it was one of those where, like, before I found out or any of that news broke, I was in more or less the best shape of my life.
Yep.
And just from there, I gained all the way to, like, 218. Yeah. Right? In just a matter of 3 weeks, my mother was in the hospital, my father was in the hospital, my sister was at home. Yep. All three tested positive for COVID. This is when it was just new, right? So we couldn't even visit the hospitals. We couldn't even. So I was in my apartment, literally like, what just happened, right? Like, imagine losing all three of your whole family literally in just a matter of like that. Yeah. So that gave me a whole different perspective of, like, that's how fast life goes. We really don't have as much time as we think we do. Nope. Right? Because next year my goal was, my father was to retire, purchase more properties, and just build the shit out of this brand. Yeah. Right? And just like that, we were excited. We had just closed another property, and just like that, gone. Right? Mm-hmm. And that goes to show that, like, we really don't have that much time, man. And a lot of people are content with the way they're living, and just, and there's no wrong answer of, like, if you're happy, then congratulations, you win.
Completely.
Like, there's no money, there's no amount of money or like that defines happiness. Yeah. If you're happy with your job and the way of life then congratulations, man. But I know deep down that I'm destined for more. Yeah. Right? And I'm going to chase the shit out of that. But when you're broken like that, it takes a lot to just, how the hell do you get out of this?
Constant reminders, and I think that's test of character, right? Yeah. More than anything. How bad do you really want it? Yeah. I think that a lot of things we go through in life are like going to test you to see how bad you really want.
Exactly. And I think that's, I don't know yet, like, why, because I do believe there's a reason behind everything. Yeah. But it's one of those where I want to show now that life isn't really about what happens to you, but how you react to it. You know what I mean? Because you're telling me that at my all-time lowest, we've been skyrocketing on every part of my life, my business, everything. With the whole pandemic, losing my father, losing a lot of loved ones. Like, I literally just buried my uncle on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, we're still striving. We're still pushing limits. We're still developing. We're still growing. And we're still providing the best value that we can. You know what I mean? It goes to show that, like, life isn't really about this shit that happens to you. It's how you take it and, like, all right, man, well, how do I use this to my potential? How do I get leverage off of this? And then develop, you know what I mean, and just keep pushing.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So there's a saying that goes, which everybody knows, like, it either makes you or breaks you. Sounds like with this situation, your father passing is helping make you. Why do you think it's affecting you in that way, and other people it might break them? So why is this making you, which, you know, in a different circumstance, a different person would break them?
So I think a lot had to do with, because a lot of lessons that my father taught me. He was very big on faith. And he always lived life like that. Like, a lot of it was just faith. And I think, like, now he lives through me, right? So now the legacy that I create, it's on me. And I feel like it's a little more pressure that I need, and that I don't mind it. But I know the work that he put to get us where he is, right? So now I know what I got to do for me and my family and my loved ones to get us to that next level. Because I truly believe that I got what it takes to get there, right? And when you just, when you know what you bring to the table, it's like you can't lose. You can't lose. And even if you let a thought like that just enter, you're already lost. You know what I mean? So it's one of those, like, it was hard. You know, I won't say it was easy or anything, but I think it's just, you have to understand that is the game of life. You know, it happens. It's gonna happen to everyone if it hasn't happened to you yet. But it's one of those where, like, I'm grateful that I met you and Arte and my mentorship program, because I don't think I would have been here or had that mindset if it wasn't for a mentorship program like Arte.
So that was going to be my next question is, do you feel that the people that you surrounded yourself with kind of really is what ultimately shaped you?
100%. 100%, man. Because it like, the very first, like, you were the very first person that reached out. And it was one of those, like, what can I do for you? Right? I mean, they offered to send me groceries. You know, like, it was just, like, stuff that, like, the people that I thought were there for me didn't really, you know, reach out. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that I'm kind of grateful that you got to see a lot of who's really there for you and who really isn't. And I think your circle is literally the most important thing. And I know people say it, but once you're actually living it and there's people who are, like, pushing you, constantly pushing you to grow, then you can't lose. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, it's one of those things where if you're like you have, you know, fitness, and then there's, like, all of our Arte brothers have something going on, and I think that's why Arte is great, because it's not just about business development, but it's how you tie yourself up and how you prepare for it, because it's a lot of pressure, right? You know, opening a business is not easy, and then growing it is a whole different level. But if you're not ready just mindfully, and you're not in the right place with the right circle, there's a limit, there's a cap for it. You know what I mean? So once you have, like, the right frame and the right group of friends and circle, you can't lose.
The two things that, like, are helping you make it are, like you said, your dad's values that were instilled in you, and your circle.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would say, like, all right, so from what I've seen Sam go through, you said you believe a lot of things happen for a reason and purpose. I think, dude, it's your time. We shoot each other messages. How often?
Like 3 times a week.
Single week.
Yeah.
Every single week, we're definitely telling each other, either through text, DM, whatever it is, like, it's our time.
It's our time.
Nonstop. And that hasn't changed since we met.
Yeah.
And it hasn't even changed when, like, we're both going through shit. Like, a lot of people don't know, like, you know, I related to Sammy. I saw like what he was going through, and like with his father, with your uncle. That like a lot of people didn't know like I was going through a lot of that similar stuff before when I joined Arte and when we started Pure Elite. Pure Elite almost didn't happen because of like I was in the span of the last 2 years. My dad got attacked by a dog. My uncle had a stroke that nearly killed him. I was appointed power of attorney to decide whether he was going to live or die. And during that, it's triggered my grandmother to have breast cancer. And that went rampant, and she started having seizures. That triggered my dad's cancer. And then we found out about my 2 uncles having cancer. All during this time that my parents, we were all struggling financially. And we decided to open up Pure Elite, right? So I think I agree with you. And like I saw like what was happening to you. So it's a lot of similar things, and that's why I was so hell bent on making sure like whatever you need, brother, I got you, because that is a time where you get to decide like, and I'm sure you tell yourself all the time, there is nothing else that you're going to be able to that you will go through that's going to be harder than what you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And whatever gets 100%. Put in front of you, you're going to go straight through it because of that.
That I've broken so many barriers just because of that. Just that. Like, dude, if I can overcome this, I can overcome almost anything. Exactly. So that mindset itself is so powerful. Yes. And it's true because, I mean, I know your story. I mean, we've had many conversations, and you're right. Like, I've seen you struggle, and then here we are. You have, and you guys haven't even took off yet.
Nope.
And that's the beauty of it. Because I know what's coming, Like, I know where this is going. I know, like, it's going to happen. It's just time hasn't caught up yet.
Yep.
And it's one of those that, like, we know where we're going.
Yeah.
And I can see it. It's just so powerful that, like, that goes to show, like, the people you hang around with, what that does. Because if you hang out with people that are doing less than you, that's negative energy that's going to drag you, like, well, I'm doing more than him.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yep.
But when there's somebody who's doing, like, the same or that's, getting where you want to get, it's a whole different story because, like, damn, I got to keep climbing.
And I think this is where you learn who you are and how big, if you're a leader or not.
Yeah.
Because now it's not like you surround yourself, you edit your circle constantly. You're trying to find the best version of everyone else around you, right? And that helps bring yourself up. And I think you really learn to separate yourself as a leader, right? I think this is what I meant by this is your time. You have to bring everyone else up around you. There is no other question.
Exactly.
And that's without letting yourself get lower.
Mm-hmm.
You can only get higher.
Yeah.
And and I think that is the biggest lesson a lot of people need to learn, right? Is that when shit starts stacking up, you don't just crumble and fall and stay with where you're at.
Yeah.
You have to get better. Or even where you stay stagnant, you're going to get worse.
And that goes back to like that applied pressure that you got to be prepared for when opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
Right? Because preparation needs to meet opportunity. And if the opportunity's out there, you have to create it. But guess what? You have to be ready regardless. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things where if you just stay stagnant, you're never going to just develop or grow. Right? And even if that opportunity is there for you, you're just not ready for it because you weren't prepped enough.
Exactly.
And opportunities don't come often. And the fact that you had to deny that opportunity because you weren't prepared when you had the time, you just simply chose not to. Now you got to live with that. Like, yes. I didn't meet that opportunity because I wasn't prepared. Knowing deep down you could have made it,
That's even worse when, like, you decide to turn it down instead of trying and just failing.
Mm-hmm.
You would have gotten so much more out of just trying and failing.
Yeah.
Like, this. Like, I started a gym before Pure Elite, man. I had to fail. That was the only way I was going to be able to get to where I'm at and understand, like, what we need to get better. I think it's the same thing with you, man. Like, you knew, like, being an architect, it's not an easy feat to be an architect at all.
Oh.
Right? To go to school, to get that done, do all.
It was a lot.
It's a lot. But you decided, like, man, that's not enough. I need more. I have to add a second layer to this. I have to do something that's going to separate myself and get myself better. That's what you did, right?
100%.
And I think that's, like, a lot of lessons, like, tying this into, like, fitness and health and what the average person can learn from this is, like, it's never enough.
Yeah, and I think a lot has to do with people not truly believing in themselves.
Yeah.
And I know it's because I've experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was one of those, like, I was never, like, the one who like the popular one, right? But it's one of those where like, does that put you down, or do you really know what you're capable of, right? It's I think it comes down to like fully being able to understand yourself. And I think that's why I got into self-development because of that.
And we've talked too as a matter of like, you know, there are a lot of different avenues with fitness, and I think there's a reason why you're on this podcast, and there's a reason why like we're really good friends is because like we talked about what we're doing here, like bringing out the best version of yourself, and the easiest barrier to entry to do that is through fitness and health, because you're forced to start trying to understand yourself, right? Yeah. You're forced to see like, okay, if I have to put this much pressure, right, and this much resistance on me, how am I going to react to it? Yeah. I want to squat 300 pounds. I put 300 pounds on my back. How am I going to react to that? Or am I going to fold? Am I going to give up because it's too much? Yep. Am I not ready? Did I do everything I need to do? Right? It's the same situation with life and everything you do. Yeah. You know, it's just how you apply yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a snowball effect. Yeah. Right. So, and it works both ways. If you, like I said, if you wake up, you know, you start off reading. That's usually how I start out my day, and then, you know, start off, go work out, and then I come back and start. You know, it's a small win. It's a snowball effect. You know, you win the day. That's usually how it is. One foot next to the other, just one by one. Yep. You know, everybody, we're focused too much on like how the end goal is gonna be, but you gotta take it, win one day at a time.
It's the faith, right, in yourself.
Yep.
And that you put in the work, and that you know that the work that you're putting in is going to get you to that end result. And like, it's something we do with our clients here. Like, right, we find out what their long-term goals are. Mm-hmm. It's not for them to focus on it, right? It's so that they know that they're there, right? You always got to keep it in the back of your head, because you still want to get there. But it's a matter of, okay, let's reverse engineer this, break this down. What do you need to do every quarter to get to that goal? Mm-hmm. What do you need to do every month? What do you need to do every week? And now what do you need to do every day? If you keep doing these things that you need to do every day,
you're on the right track.
It's going to get you in there inevitably, right? Mm-hmm. As long as you're putting in the work, right? Those opportunities, like we talked about earlier, they don't just pop up. You got to create them. You got to manifest them, right? And they pop up when you're in the right state of mind and you're ready for it.
Exactly.
Right? And like whether they're good or they're bad, we can't control that. Mm-hmm. But what we do is can we take something and run with it? Can we take something, grow ourselves from it? Yeah. Grow everyone else that we care about in it? And like, you had an opportunity, you've been doing it.
Yeah. You know? It's one of those, like, would you create an opportunity for yourself if you knew you weren't ready? You know, like, if I know I'm not ready, I'm not going to try and look for an opportunity.
Exactly.
Right? But it's one of those, like, where you start to believe in yourself, and it's the small wins. Yep. That's the snowball effect that, like, you start believing in yourself, and then, like, whoa, I could really do this.
Yep.
Right? And then next thing you know, you're smashing your fitness goals. And that's the way life works. You know, it takes that small win that's like, oh, man, maybe I am meant for more.
Yep.
Maybe I am destined for, maybe I could really do this. Right? And then you start reaching out for something else, and guess what? You get there, and you're just like, whoa, this is happening. And when you tie it all together, man, it's just, you're unstoppable.
And the great thing is, like, I'm sure you're going through this now. How clear do those visions get now? You know exactly what that end game looks like.
Yes.
You know what steps you have to get there. Mm-hmm. Now it's just going to be a matter of time.
Time hasn't caught up yet. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. It's exactly. It's one of those, like, the discipline where you don't feel like doing it, but you know you got to do it because you got to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think this is also a big lesson I want to put out there today. Feelings and, like, what you have to do in order to still, like, use them in the right way and not in a negative way, mm-hmm. right? You could have easily went down the path with what happened with you guys, right? It could have easily been like something to feed in a negative way. Instead, you decided to use something negative into something very positive. Because I know that's like one of your biggest driving factors now, right? You think about your dad.
Yeah, feels the shit out of me, man. Mm-hmm. Especially with, like, when it gets hard when you're just constantly applying pressure. I mean, I've been working out for like 87 days in a row. You know, no rest days, and it's one of those, like, your body starts taking that toll, but it's like, just keep pushing, you know, like, it's one of those, like, you know, your body adjusts.
Yeah.
Right? It's but it's just a matter of like that constant reminder, or when even like in business when you're just handling a lot of clients.
Oh yeah.
And then you have to deal with like emergencies, stuff like this, and
Feel like a big jumble in your head. And
yeah, right. And it's like, all right, well,
foggy.
we got to figure it out.
Yep.
You know, because everybody, guess what, is looking towards you to figure out. You know, so it's one of those where like you think of stuff that strengths your why. Your why is so important that, you know, a lot of people don't even know. But it's one of those that like fuels your fire, and when you're down, when you're up, like it's just a very big factor in your life is knowing your why you're doing what you're doing, and what's keeping you going. You know. I
agree with that 100%. That was probably one of the first things we talked about when we met.
Yeah.
What's our why?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't. To this day, I think if anything has gotten clearer, like what our whys are, instead of it hasn't degraded in any way. And it's been consistent.
I think that's showing because, I mean, we are developing. I can see your growth. You know, I can see where this is going. And I think the fact that the why hasn't changed one bit, that's how strong that why is.
Yeah.
You know, that's
100%.
That's
Same
all,
with you.
Yeah.
It's only grown.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming on here, brother. Finally got you on. We'll definitely have you back.
Of course.
I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to want to follow your journey and what you're doing. I mean, I definitely do. Motivates the hell out of me. But anything you want to add?
No, man. Just want to say thanks for having me, man. I know it's been in the works for a few months now.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that we were able to finally get our schedules to meet. And thanks for having me out here, man. I truly appreciate it.
If there's anything that you can say to anyone out there, even the past version of yourself, that you feel like would help change them, even if you could reach out to that one person, what would that lesson or what would that advice be?
I would definitely say, and I know it sounds cliche, but like, don't fucking give up. Because it's one of those where like you're gonna get tested, man. If you think you're not, like you're already like on the wrong side. But it's one of those like there's nothing special about me. Nothing.
I don't think there's anything special about anyone.
And it's one of those like, how are you here already? Like, how are you there? You know, it's one of those like I would say is just keep pushing. You know, just keep pushing.
I love it. All right, guys. We'll appreciate you logging in and watching Behind the Elite. If you guys have anything you want to contact us with, you can address us at our email, pureelitefitness.com, or check out our social medias. Thanks.